episode is brought to you by Cultivate Investments and Consultants. If you're looking for investments for new construction, home, or renovation project, they definitely can provide that service. If you're looking to rent or lease a property, Cultivate Investment is the way to go. If you're watching this from our Instagram page, definitely their handle will be within the body of the post. If you're watching this, the full episode on YouTube, definitely send me a message and I'll definitely connect you. It's called the Netwrk for a reason. What's going on, guys? Your boy Sadiq. Welcome to the Netwrk. So today I have a guest by the name of Scott Aceto. This guy, he's been in the real estate investment side for a while. He actually owns his own brokerage too, but for the most part, this guy's been doing this thing at a very, I don't want to say too young of an age, but mid 2000s, I think it was, where he started his journey in real estate investment, buying properties, doing flips, doing builds, and all that, and losing, partnerships or relationships with partners, just to rebuild and restart his whole venture again. So I wanted to invite somebody onto this platform to talk about the journey of partnerships, right? And how that operates and the downfalls that you deal with when you're operating in a partnership space, and I think this guy, Scott himself, could actually share a lot of that information, because it's very important that we realize that when we are doing business with anybody, and we are in partnerships with individuals, the things that maybe we should look out for, questions that we should ask ourselves, and so forth and so forth. So with that being said, welcome to the platform, Scott. If you don't mind, please introduce yourself to the people, and let's get going, man.
No
Let's
problem.
go.
Thank you for having me, Sadiq. So my name's Scott Aceto. I'm born and raised in Rhode Island. I started doing real estate full time like 2015. I got my license in 2012. Right, I moved back from college. I went to school in New York to Iona College, played soccer there, finished up my MBA, moved back home. Knew I wanted to do something with real estate, wasn't sure what, so I kind of just got my license on a whim, and shelved it for a little bit, like kept it active, but maybe sold a house in like 4 years or so at that point, right? So, I started working at Providence College, moved back home. My life goal was to be an athletic director. That was what I thought, the journey was for me. I did it for 2 years. I was in that space and I hated it.
Why?
It was just slow. I came out of college. I had a decent salary, was making good money. And year one, I remember I got like a 4% raise. I was cool. All right. So next year, a little unincentivized. Next year, I did half as much. I got a 4% raise. I'm just like, man, this isn't for me. Like I got so much energy and I'm ready to go that this isn't the life I want. So, kind of flipped the script and, still living in Cranston. I took a job in Boston doing software sales. Right. And, I'd commute back and forth from Cranston to Boston every day. My hours were wild. We'd show up at 7. We'd work till 7. I had a 6:20 train, 5 a.m. wake up. I used to get home from the train. I was still playing soccer at the time, and like we'd be at a game afterwards. I'm having a beer, falling asleep. I was like, this is crazy, but it was great. It was an unbelievable learning experience for me. We were at a software startup backed by Bain Venture Cap. It was like unreal experience. I think I was employee like 102, and by the time I left, there's probably like 250. So it was just rapid growth. So opened up my eyes to a lot of different things. And, that was when I found real estate for the first time. Mm-hmm. I looked at buying a home. I was finally able to. I had, oodles of student loan debt that I had to pay off. Mm-hmm. So figured out a way to scrounge together some money and buy my first house. Nice. And, we spent the winter break renovating it. Me and my cousins. All right. And, we did a terrible job in hindsight. I didn't know what I was doing. So, but it came out well, and we ended up getting a little more in rent. And I just remember thinking, like, I love this. Yeah. Like, I want to be all in on this. So, quit my job and embarked on a real estate career from there.
Man, so there's a lot in there that we're going to dive into, right? But it's very important to understand where you came from, I think, personally. Yeah. And one of the things that I want to discuss is how you're growing up,
Yep.
right? You grew up with both parents.
Yep.
You grew up with, it was just you and another brother.
Yep.
Polar opposites.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like in a household with both parents, a brother? You guys were polar opposites, and most importantly, was there competition between both of you guys
Yeah.
too?
Yeah. So we were, my dad came from Italy to America, met my mom in college. My family, everyone's from Cranston. We live like one aunt lives the next house over, the other
Close.
one's across the street.
You
If
can
you're
hear
more,
your aunt screaming at her kids.
yeah,
Your aunt,
yeah,
it's crazy when you're
yeah.
that close.
We're like within a 1 mile radius. Everyone's pretty close. So it was good. We have very strong like family structure. And so the way I'd look at it is like my brother was just good at everything he did, right? So growing up sports wise, we played baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever, and he was just always good. So I was always the little brother, and we'd always be in a backyard, and he'd be schooling me in something one way or another. So it was always like this competitiveness to try to keep up. And to the point where like we went to high school, he was all state. I ended up becoming all state. We went to college. Like the difference between us was we went to college and like 2 years in, this kid's starting playing every game. For me, I went to college and like I got cut. So it was different. But not for any one reason. Just he was good. He was good at good sports. So what I'm lucky is that I had support, right? So even though getting cut or getting cut from any team, kind of joke with people. When I was 13, the field nearby makes me think of this. When I was 13, I got cut from that team. In high school, I got cut from that team. So I kind of joke with people like I got used to failing very very early, right? So and I got used to like when you get cut, it's like all right, cool. I'll prove you wrong. I'll figure out a way to come back and earn this. So
how did you manage all that? Like, how did you before you tap
yeah.
into the competitiveness? How did you manage to come back
Oh
and
man,
like
it's hard.
fight through all
Yeah.
that challenges?
It's hard. So, the first time it always happens, I think anyone who says, "Oh, I took it like a champ," I bawled my eyes out. You know what I mean? You're 13 and getting told you're not good enough to be on a
That
team with you
sucks.
and your
Yeah,
friends. So
yeah,
it's like, it's hard. I think the only, that's where I do give my parents and my family full credit is the idea of we'll get you back out there somehow. Like keep trying, keep working, run a little bit more, touch a ball a little extra. Like so I think that side of it really developed the work ethic in me, right? So the idea that like, all right, if at first you don't succeed, you just keep going, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like no, that was one of the cool things about my family is like you were never judged for failure, but you were judged for effort. So like
Dope.
if you failed and you didn't try, that's one thing, but if you gave it your all and you failed, then what can you be mad about?
Yeah.
So
I think with me for the most part growing up and always trying to like I remember the first time when I started my journey as an entrepreneur um back in the days like and I knew that it didn't work out like deep inside internally I was hurt as
yeah,
hell. I'm like damn like I was doing everything possible just trying to push the idea, push the business, and and a lot of times you just dump a lot of money
yeah,
into
of
into it,
course,
and I wasn't really, and sports for you was sports, for me it
right,
was like that journey of entrepreneurship, right?
right,
And like just failing at it and then really have the support system to just hey, it's all right, you did
yeah,
what, just push forward. I wish I had that type of push or that
yep,
type of love, but was really never like that for me. And to have a structure that's built around you to support you and allowing you to constantly realize like, yo, it's okay to fail.
right, right.
Everybody typically will fail one way or another,
Right.
you know.
Well, I think so the definition becomes what is a failure, right? So
Mm,
you didn't make the team. Well, is that the failure? Did you learn a lesson from
yeah.
it? Did you grow from it? So um for me college was the biggest learner of that. Like my coach who I'm still very friendly with, he cut me. He's like, "You're a great guy. Like you just never play here." And he gave me the chance to prove him wrong, right? I said, let me prove you wrong. Let me earn a spot. Let me do what I have to do. And patience. 4 years later, a lot of sessions in the gym when no one's looking, a lot of late nights, a lot of extra film. You got to put the work in, and eventually, I was captain of the team. So
So,
the you know, a buddy of mine on the team once said it to me. He's like, how'd you stay calm throughout the process? I'm like, it looks like you're calm, but we worked. Like I just worked really hard when no one else was looking, right? So if you're doing the same thing as everyone else, right? We practice however many hours a day. If I just did that, how can I get better than the next guy, right? So I used to spend nights in a gym, nights with the ball, just do whatever you could to like get a couple touches in, right? Run when you weren't running. That was how I got ahead.
So and you overcame, and did you use that to fuel yourself,
Yeah,
right? And it's allowed you to be able to become the individual that you are
for sure,
today.
for sure.
So if you don't mind, how did soccer and the challenges that you faced in
Yeah.
soccer playing sports when you're young, how did that pretty much um how do you apply that today in today's learning
Yeah,
lessons?
so I think it's twofold, right? So
Mm,
I think the idea of being able to handle rejection, failure, whatever your first plan was, having that not work is okay
yeah.
as long as you don't give up, right? Like continue to figure out, well, what can I do to achieve it? And back to that, like family structure and support. I mean, I think that's where it segues into having good partnerships, good relationships, because I mean, this business, as you know, by yourself is hard.
It is.
Is
It's
is
really
very
hard.
hard. Like
Yeah.
you got to have a good network, no pun intended, around you, right? So free
You
branding.
saw how he threw that
Yeah.
gem in there, right?
So you got to have a good network because
Facts.
like there's lonely nights, there's scary nights. Like there's
Yeah.
times where like you need someone else who knows what you're going through to just
Mhm.
be able to like prop you up a little bit. So
True.
I'm big on paying that forward, right? So you know, I kind of tell my phone's on always. So if you're someone else in this business, if you have a question, I mean, even us when we first met and talked, like I don't hold anything back. Like I want you to have the recipe for success that I've seen. So if I can offer it or if I can help you in any way, like let me know, you know?
As as you're talking, right? I want to dive into, right, your entrepreneur journey,
Yeah.
right? You've went through the challenges playing sports. You overcame that. Now, in terms of your entrepreneur journey, how did that begin for you, and what motivated you? What motivated you to embark on the path of entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So back at one of those jobs I was talking about by Providence
Yeah.
College, I met you know, Bob McCann. 02908 was this massive real estate company over there.
All right.
And I remember, you know, I was doing fundraising for the school, and I met Bob, and awesome guy, and he made a donation that day. He gave me a $50,000 check for a donation. I remember just holding it in my hand, thinking like, "Wow, I've never seen like it just
Right.
casually, right? Yeah."
Right.
And again, as a donation, I'm just like, if you're donating this, like, it means
You
yeah,
must have
yeah,
money
like
somewhere.
so
Where'd that money come from, brother?
so so you know, I got very close to him, and we talked about like properties and rentals, and he was in the student rental business. So I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna follow suit there. I partnered up with a buddy of mine who had been doing it as well, and you know, back to the partnership thing, that was what led me to feel comfortable enough to quit the job and pursue. I knew I had someone I was working with. We started buying some property together. I started helping him in the office. He'd help me, you know, acquire property, and that was it. Like it started growing from there, and you know, one house became two, and two became four, and then four became eight, and next thing you know, I think I had amassed like a portfolio of about like 30 properties or
Yeah.
so. So it was all good, but you know, it's one of the lessons learned there was like that relationship fell apart,
Yeah.
but you know, I learned a lot from it too, and same thing, right? We talk about like the ebbs and flows and
Yeah.
and failing and succeeding. You know, that was a friend of mine, and so when that ended, it was like, man, this is tough. What do you do? How do you balance personal and work? And you know, we've come through the other side, and I've come through the other side, and it's you learn the importance of navigating these partnerships and finding what you're good at,
Mhm.
being self-aware, right? What's my role? What can I have done better? What should I look for in a partner?
Yeah.
And I think that's what really guides me along the idea of like partnering with different people, different partnerships, different places. So
So you mentioned that you own like you had 30 properties, or you
give or
currently own
give or
30
take. So both,
when
right?
you first began.
So it had amassed. I think I started. So if I started in 2015, I think by like 2019,
Yeah.
I had about 30.
Nice.
And then you know, part of the breakup of one of the partnerships, we offloaded, a bunch. I think it went back down to maybe 8 or
Oh,
so.
wow.
And then since then I've rebuilt it up. I'm at about 26 right now. So,
Awesome. What's that net worth like?
oof. uh,
You
I
know, it's
mean,
not about money in the
yeah,
bank
no,
either.
I don't know. Yeah, if it's money in the bank, it's like $100 right now. Yeah, I used a gift card for the coffee. But no, it's probably, probably at the end of the day, it will be worth 12 million. I mean, there's
Wow.
a lot of debt on there, but I'd say once it's all said and done, once everything's paid off, it's probably somewhere in that range. But you and I talked about this when we first met. The money, right? The getting that donation from him, from Bob, I'm looking at it thinking, man, this is awesome.
What was that donation for? You didn't tap into
It,
that.
it was for he donated to the college. I was
Gotcha.
working in fundraising for the college, so it was to a scholarship fund. And but I just remember thinking like, so he has money to impact someone else's life
Yeah.
is what the money did, right? And so part of that transition period of where I was looking at different jobs, I went on a sales interview with one of the tech companies I was looking at, and they asked me a great question and stuck with me always was, why are you in sales, right? So you give the sales guy, I'm here to make money. It's why everyone's in this business. We're here to make money. And he goes, why is money important to you? And I was just like, woof. Well, that's a loaded question. That's so that like stayed with me and got me thinking, right? So my response for the longest time was, it still is something in the back of my mind. I'd like to be able to calculate like everything my family and parents have like provided for me, right? So went to St. Mary's growing up, went to Hendricken growing up, sports teams, baseball teams, driving from Worcester to Exeter to all different parts of the state. I'd like to figure out what that number is and be able to be like, Mom and Dad, you invested in me. Here's your repayment.
So that's a payback to them.
That's a payback
dope.
to them.
That's
Yeah.
dope.
So, but the beauty of family is they probably never take it. They wanted to see their son be successful. So I think that was always my driving force, right? Was the ability to be able to repay those that invested in me.
Now your parents are a very crucial
Yeah.
asset in your life. They played a major part in your real estate investment journey as well. Buying your first property.
Yeah, no.
How did that come about?
so the first one, I bought the first one while I was still working in Boston. So the second one, which was part of the partnership, we found this unreal 3-family by the college. Back then, if you want to laugh, it was $100,000, $125,000, right? So I had to come up with my share, 62.5. I had about maybe 15,000 or so saved up. So I had to come up with about another $40K plus or minus. Gotcha. So I start asking. I'm like, I know this is a home run. So I start reaching out to people, coming up with ways to get my right. So coaches, anyone who I knew, friends, someone else in real estate, uncles, cousins, family, right? You go to your natural network. And my parents had seen everything I was doing and were like kind of so, I like to say, I guess, impressed by like my commitment to it, that they pulled from their retirement to invest in it. So
that put a smile on my face because that support is crazy. So they pulled out from their investment to help you
to invest in me.
To invest in you.
Yep.
That's crazy. And like a lot of times when a lot of people are looking into getting into their first investment, we try to find ways the way we could pull funds.
Yeah.
And luckily you had your parents, But for some people really don't have their parents. They're still friends.
Absolutely.
How can other individuals really go about finding ways to
so that was one, right? That one worked out well. So as we rapidly continued to buy more, so we had like 2 more under contract to buy. I started cold calling people. Literally, I had gone to like a landlord tenant meeting. Kind of saw some of the people there, right? I'm always observing like who's around me. Jotted down their names, got a list from the meeting minutes, and just started to hammer the phones. Hey, I'm Scott, buying a house. You want to invest? Like it was, and so good training in Boston, being a phone sales guy. So I eventually found another partner. Kind of walked through all the numbers with it. He owned some other stuff in the area, and he's like, well, listen, I don't want to be spending any time at the property. No problem. We'll handle the time and the reno. We just need the money, right? Yeah. So we ended up striking a deal. He's like, all right, I'll invest. I'll pay. You guys do everything else. Cool. I need money. You need someone to do it.
Balances out.
Good partnership, right? So
now in regards to that, right? For individuals that's looking to get into the game as well, right? Do you think how should somebody tap into the aspect of having a solid partnership? Like,
Yeah.
what should they look out for?
So I think a partnership's like a team, right? You
Yeah.
asked how sports start to come into play. So Tom Brady doesn't throw to Tom Brady, right? So you got to figure out what your role is, and you got to be honest at what you're good at, what you're bad at, and you got to find what other people are good at and bad at. And if you can find that balance, that's how you can make a good mixture, right? So like one of the ways we connected is my partner Vin, great at construction. If you ask him, he'll tell you right off the bat, I hate dealing with
Vin's a
tenants.
dope dude, man. Respect to Vin.
So he'll tell you right off the bat, I hate dealing with tenants. I don't want to manage any properties. Like once the construction's done, I hate it. I'm like, perfect. That's where I step in, right? I hate the construction side. You handle that. So, you know, we two guys, totally different backgrounds, kind of in the same space. You know, we made it work, and it's one of the most flourishing relationships I have right now. Where, you know, in times of ups and downs, he's there to help me, and vice versa. But more importantly, our company is thriving with the properties and the projects we have. We have defined roles, we have defined trust, we have a plan for, hey, if this doesn't work, how do we end it? So I think those are all things to start to learn from these experiences. Like, all right, when one thing fails, you know, after you get past the initial failure, all right, what went well, what went wrong, and how do I adjust? And that's, you know, that's been the kind of the story of my life here, is like getting cut from a team. All right, what went well, what went wrong, how do I adjust and grow? So
Interesting. So before you and Vin partner up, you also had a partnership with another person. You guys were managing properties to college students and all that. How did that partnership come about?
Yep.
And how did that partnership fail?
So we had known each other, childhood friends, right? And so we had known each other for years. And at the time, we had both had a mutual goal. I wanted to grow, he wanted to grow. I was good in an office and helping growing a business. I wanted to acquire property. I don't have money and I don't have construction knowledge. Well, he had a little bit of both of those. It was a good match made in heaven. What we didn't organize is, you know, on a sunny day, everything's always good, right? There's the old saying of a winning team has no problems. It's
I
true.
love how you use sports to like
It's such a part
tie
of my
it
life.
tie it all. That's dope. Go ahead.
So a winning team never has any problems until they start to lose, right? So for us, everything was great. And then all of a sudden it wasn't, and we didn't have a plan of like, well, what do you do if life changes? Like, what do you do if you want to get married, or if you have a kid, or if there's a divorce, or if someone wants to retire? Like, how do you plan for that?
Listen up. Go
we
ahead.
didn't have any of that put into place. And so just as it's important to make a plan when you're coming together, it's important to make a plan of how you're going to separate, because at the end of the day, you know, this isn't a for life and till death do us part thing. It's a business relationship. So I think one of the biggest takeaways to learn from is put your personal stuff aside, right? Step into it like it's a business.
Talk it.
Do what's best for you and your business, both singular and combined, right? You don't want to be greedy. No one wants to work with a greedy person. And then make a plan of like, hey, if this doesn't work, this is how we're going to end it. And if you can do that while relations are good, it'll save you so much headache when relationships go bad.
So I've been your old partner. He has a lot of success going on with his venture.
Yep.
You guys fell apart.
Yep.
Now you starting your venture.
Yep.
How do you plan on staying? Do you look at his venture as a competitive nature, one, and if so or if not, how do you plan to stay competitive and constantly moving forward to stay ahead?
Of course. So I don't think so. I think there's so much business in this space that the idea of competition is an interesting one, right? So I'm not trying to trip anyone up to get ahead. My goal is to do the best that my business can. And so, you know, one of the things I think that we've done a great job of is, I'm a smaller company. We got a smaller portfolio of properties. I want to be the best possible one. I want to be a little bit more boutique in my offering. I want my service to be top tier. And as a result, I get a lot of referral business from both students and non-students on the rental side. But the newest focus has been on the brokerage. So on the brokerage side for real estate, I knew it was an area that was untapped. And when you look across the market, I mean, there's some heavy hitters in Rhode Island. and they're great at what they do. So same thing, right? Well, what don't they do? And it's like, all right, on some of them, it's a service base. If you're servicing 300-400 clients, like how can you be available? How can you talk to them
Yeah.
directly? How can you offer 100% of what you need to do if you're overextended? So it's finding the gaps that exist in markets and filling them. So
Do you think that's fair to say though, in terms of, because you're smaller, you want to focus more so on the clientele base versus if a company's bigger, they're not really focusing on the clientele base?
so I think both.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Netwrk podcast. I'm only asking you guys for one huge favor. If you guys like what you're listening to, hearing, all that, please subscribe to the YouTube page. If you're on Instagram, like, follow, and share our Instagram page, thenetwrk.co. That's THENETWRK.co. It's your boy Sadiq.
I think both are possible.
Yeah.
I just think it's more important for us to be hyper focused on our skill set. And
Gotcha.
being a smaller company, I think your skill set is you can deliver a more personalized service, right? On a larger scale company, you might be doing excellent with your service, but by the very nature of the size, it's harder to be that personalized, right?
Gotcha.
So a lot of folks I work with now, like I know what you're looking for, why you're buying, why you're selling, etc. I have a listing right now. It's one of my favorite stories. The guy telling me, if he sells his condo right now, he's like, I'm able to pay off all my student loans on this one deal. I'm like, I love that. I can associate with that. I'm motivated by that. Not to say that another agency that's larger doesn't know that, but for me, like that's a personal connection and a feel good story. I think as you scale, you need to figure out ways to continue to embody that. So part of the growth process is learning, all right, how do we maintain this startup mentality as we get bigger? Because by definition, as you get bigger, you're less of a startup. So it's a challenge. It's one, if I had an answer, I'd probably be retired on an island somewhere, but it's something that I think that the people around me, I want to give them the support that, like you talked about in this business, it's tough to find. It's tough to find. So
you guys are solid in the rental space of renting out to college students. And I know people want to know, how do you guys go? Because it's you college students.
Yeah.
Investors make money off them.
Yeah.
How do you guys decide on, all right, location, all right, of where to buy this property, and how you guys charge college students?
Sure. So I think the bigger way to think of it is, besides just college, because anyone is, what does your customer want? And so if you can get inside the head of your customer, you can start to understand what prices matter, what prices don't matter, what locations matter, what amenities matter, etc. And I think that's the important thing, right? So working at the college, being a college student, when I was in college, I had an absolute slumlord in New York. So knowing from my own experience what not to do, you just kind of flip it and be like, all right, cool. What are some of the things we want to do? You got to realize, you might get some silly requests, like, kids don't know that there's like a heating switch that turns the heat on and off. So they think that the heat is broken. It's just like, no, you just gotta turn the switch on, So how to work a thermostat, as shocking as that sounds, like I've been asked like how to turn the heat on. So
they're on their own. It's not their fault.
and that's the thing. So I think just making sure you know what your customer base is looking for is important. So for us, I was able to kind of get inside the head of college kids over there. I have great communication with them. As much as I try to push hey, work through our online systems, etc. I get text, hey, how do I do this? So I kind of joke, you're almost like part landlord, part like advisory father figure, part property manager, so you have to deal with it. You have to deal with some of the norms of communication, right? So like they want text and they want answers and they want them now. They don't want to submit a maintenance request and wait 48 hours in a property manager.
Everything is fast for the kids, man. They need that information quick.
And I understand. And so while we do our best to put these systems and processes in place, you just got to be a little flexible to, like, your customer doesn't know that that's what you want to do. So, you got to push them towards that while at the same time, like, maintaining your service. So
Now, for somebody who's looking to do their first real estate investment
Yeah.
project, and they really want to like cater to college students
Yeah.
themselves, right? How should they navigate to where they should find that location?
Sure.
How should they? You know what? I want to buy the property right here, or
So,
maybe I want to buy it like a few blocks away.
yeah.
How do they decide on that? How does yeah?
So first thing I would say is hire me as your realtor. Shameless plug. But no, I think getting a grip on where that rental market exists, right? So it's a very, as you know, it's a very defined and specific area.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Providence, and this was true. When I went to visit friends in Baltimore, where I went to school in New York. College kids are finicky, where like one street you'll live on, one street you won't, and it's just it's their community that you have to kind of follow, right? So once you learn that, I mean, obviously proximity to a school or a campus is always going to be a good economic driver, but like you look at Brown University, you have kids that want to be like right next door, and then you have a street where it's not a single student on that street, and it's just so it's mapping that out and figuring out ways. All right, cool. How do I tap into that market? Buy something there, and just be where the competition is going to be hot for it, because like you said, it's a good demanding market. It's a supposedly recession-proof market, right? So we'll find out. I mean, college price doesn't go down, rent doesn't really go down. So you isolate yourself. You usually have multiple parents paying. If you rent to 3, 4, 5 kids, you usually got 3 or 4 or 5 sets of parents paying. So you're kind of safer than if it's a single income household where or a mom or dad, like you protect yourself a little bit, right? So I think that's one of the areas why it's been lucrative and successful. And now the newest thing for me has been it segues into if you had a good experience with me as your college landlord and you stay, well, how can I help you with your next rental? How can I help you buy a place? Like I want to take you down this full journey of the supply chain. Yeah, from your first rental to your first purchase to hopefully your last purchase, right? So it's creating this full pipeline.
That's dope. Secrets to the game, right? I want to tap in. I want to get into that. So you went through all this journey. Now you're here. You own a brokerage. What's the name of your brokerage?
Smith & Oak Real Estate Company.
And what's the vision that you have for Smith & Oak based on the challenges and everything that you went through to get to where you're at right now?
So I think with the brokerage, we're separating that a little bit from property management, because we don't. I want one to be really good at one thing, and I'll figure out the other on the other side. So the goal of Smith & Oak Real Estate is to make sure that we're providing top level service to any clients coming in looking to buy or sell. It was an area in real estate that I didn't really focus much time on. I'd spent so much time investing and doing a lot of the property management stuff and doing a lot of investment and development that I had this broker's license and it was kind of untapped. So I partnered up with a few different agents and same story, right? And getting inside my customer, as much as it's a client right now, my customer's other agents right now, and saying, what are you lacking at your brokerage, and how can I supply that, right? So as you know, getting into real estate, I mean, everyone thinks like first year you're going to get 1,000 leads plopped on your desk and you're going to call and you're going to make $1 million. It's like, it doesn't work that way. And it doesn't work that way. You need training, you need coaching, you need advice. Leads are great, but how do you generate them? How do you create so if you're not self-sustainable, you're going to have a hard time thriving in this business. So I think the brokerage is really geared towards making sure I set up other people around me, other agents, to be as successful as they can, and in turn, the brokerage grows and I gain some success from it.
What's the current pathway that you're trying to develop to allow a person who's trying to get into the real estate game, or maybe try to come onto your brokerage? What's that path would look like for them? Like, how can you level them up? So, especially if they want to get into the investment side of things.
So I'm entirely transparent when it comes to investment side. So there's an old the joke I always make with people. It's called Texas barbecue, right? So Texas is famous for having some of the best barbecue in the country. And if you ask someone the recipe, they'll say, yeah, it's simple. You put a little salt, pepper, some sauce on it, and you cook it for 9 hours. go do it, right? Like if
Yeah.
it's so easy, go do it. So it's the same thing. If you ask me like, hey, where do I buy a good property? It's like, well, you want to find something that cash flows for you and you have to put out minimal money. That's a win. Now the hard part is like, Sadiq, how do you go find that? So I think that's where there's no specific playbook. I don't think there's a one size fits all approach to finding your properties, etc. I think you have to find what works for you and how it's going to work for you, especially as a newbie in this business where it's like, you might not have money, you might not have the recognition that like, the Moss, CJ and Beth Moss have, like they buy abandoned houses and whatnot. So it's like you gotta craft your own niche of just finding one or finding land. So I think that's boils back down to the persistence of pursuing what you already know, but actually applying it, taking the leap of faith and being like, you know what, I'm gonna try to buy this 2-family and see where this goes.
How would you help them though? Like, because if they come into you and they're looking to purchase their first investment property with you, your team, how do you help that individual um, successfully successfully have that investment property
Yeah.
to be something of value and lucrative, financially for them?
So I'd say the first thing is vetting the deal, making sure, I think we're in such a competitive real estate market where everyone's so caught up on just buy whatever you can. So I think that if you're going to be buying something, if you're going to be spending all the money you've saved up over X number of years, it's got to be the right buy. It has to make sense. So I think the teaching someone how to do the financial calculations of what, what's good and what's bad by industry standards, and then what's good or what's bad for you versus me versus a guy who has 1 million homes versus a guy who has 0. So making sure that clients know that, hey, listen, you want X as a return, this is what you should be aiming for. So I think education to the process is one. Finding the deals is the next. So being able to navigate what's on the market, and then more importantly with what you have, what's on the market, capitalizing on unseen or unused space, right? So for instance, one of the new laws passed in Rhode Island is the accessory dwelling unit law. If your lot is 20,000 square feet or bigger, you can add an accessory dwelling unit. It no longer has to be family. You can rent it. So staying current with modern day rules and regulations, right? So all of a sudden you have a single family that has a 3-car garage that's in Situate somewhere, right? You have plenty of land. You can put an apartment up there and make an extra $2,000 renting it. So it's like, those are things that, you don't always, when you see it on MLS, it's just a single family, but recognizing the potential in a deal, those are ones where I think having a little guidance can be like, hey, you can turn this around and turn it into a little bit of profit here. So.
It's crazy that you brought that up because I was actually recently, I've been seeing a lot of that going on. And I think a lot of it is due to housing shortages here in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island's having a major issue with that right now. So I guess one of the ways they trying to have homeowners maximize or at least provide home ownership to others is to turn maybe a garage into a living space, or maybe they could do a basement too, right?
Yep. So as long as it meets building code, is the biggest thing. So as long as it meets building code, and then people have to fact check me on this. I'll see if I can get the rule on it. The other thing is I don't believe you can add to the footprint of your house.
Gotcha.
So the rule is the 20,000 square feet, and as long as it meets code, I think are the two most important issues. But the biggest rule change is this always existed. It just it had to be a family member. Now it can be whomever.
Anybody.
Right.
That's real interesting. Real interesting. How do somebody like charge, especially somebody that's looking to rent to college students? How do they come about figuring out what that cost look like? Do they charge per bedroom? Do they charge for the whole unit? What does that look like?
So technically you're not supposed to charge on a per bedroom basis.
Interesting.
But the way, when you hear a lot of people say, oh, I can get 800 a bedroom or 1,000 a bedroom, almost every single person who says that is renting it as one solid unit, right?
Gotcha.
So you might have a 4-bedroom that you're charging $1,000 a bedroom for, but your rent is $4,000 because to do it by bedroom, you'd be a boarding house and you get into all these regulation issues around it.
Drop it.
But it's more of like a presenting it to the customer, right? So again, getting inside your customer's head of, do you think a college kid, again, who's half paying attention to you when you're talking, if you tell them, oh, it's $4,000 a month, or you think they're going to be able to understand, well, I got to divide that by, the four of us, and we're going to
Yeah.
chop it up, and there's 6 bedrooms, and how do we? So you present it as what's the most easily digestible to them. If you pay $1,000, you pay 1,000, etc. The lease is 4, but the 4 of you are paying $1,000. So just as like a for example, and that's knowing your customer base, right? That's knowing your customer base.
That's good because I've always wondered like how they did it, like how these properties owners making lucrative cash with college students. Because I was always told that if you could rent out to college students,
To get it,
you could get that bank.
So it's changed a bit. It's changed a bit, right? So because housing shortage is in demand, I mean, when you look at, I think the average rent for a 2-bedroom in Providence now is like $2,000, right?
Yeah, about
So if you want to laugh, if you have a 2-bedroom and you're going to rent it to college kids, you might not get that. That's a lot for 2 college kids to pay. So you might be better off getting young professionals or a family or something in there, because they'll be able to pay it. So housing conditions have definitely changed. If you have like a 6-bedroom house, maybe it makes sense to do it to kids if it's in the right area and et cetera. So it's going back to knowing your market. There's definitely zoning ordinances that have changed what you can and can't do. So it's I think all of that ties into like being a subject matter expert. Know your craft. Like you got to know, where would a kid live? Why would a kid live there? What do they like? Do they want white cabinets? They want black cabinets? They want brown cabinets? Like what are they looking for, right? It's not about, you got to take the personal side out of it and make it business, right? It's not about what I like. It's about what will my customer like.
Gotcha. Now I remember a few years ago, they had a new law that was passed. I think it was law or regulation, whatever, in the state, because college students were partying a lot, and destroying a lot of things in the house. Does that still apply to this day?
Definitely, right? So that's so the 3 unrelated was the rule. I think you can't have more than 3 unrelated living in certain zoning districts, and it's geared towards college kids. But so you adapt. You all right, cool. So if that zone's off the limit when I'm looking, I take away those zones and I focus on other areas. But again, as this market is saturated, I mean, everyone, like you said, the secret's out. Everyone wants that world. You're almost better off looking, all right, well, where can I find something else? And so for me, that new wave of success has been the young professional space where, to live downtown, a new 2-bedroom's like $3,000. It's an insane number, right? So there's not a lot of housing stock for 1-bedroom and 2-bedrooms that are not $3,000 and aren't located downtown. So, Vinny and I are working on a project on Smith Street. We converted an old single family to a 4-unit. We're doing 2 1-bedrooms, 2 2-bedrooms, and our target audience is below downtown's rates, but above what like cheap unfixed up rates would be. So we're gonna try to target like $2,500 for a 2-bedroom and maybe $2,000 for a 1, because there's no one solving that issue right now.
That's actually dope. So you guys transition. You allow yourself to transition from primarily focusing on renting out to college students. That market became saturated.
Yep.
And you guys found a loop. I don't want to say a loophole, but a gap, an opportunity that you guys saw, and you're like, yo, we could tap into this.
Well, you start to look. So Rhode Island has a very old housing stock.
Yeah.
Providence in particular has a very old housing stock. So when you look at how a lot of these houses were built, they were built so that multiple generations of families could live together, right? So you have these triple deckers that have like 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. You don't see any like 8-unit 1-bedroom apartments anywhere. They're very rare to find, in fact, right? So the idea is these 3-bedroom spaces are kind of everywhere, but there's not a lot of 2s and 1s. So downtown is the only spot where you can throw up like 12 units, 15 units, 18 units, and make them all 2s and 1s. Well, how do you fit that gap for someone who doesn't want to live downtown? Yeah. So you have to try to seek those opportunities out to be like, you know what, I'm going to get 2 bedrooms here, a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom. And because there's not so much of it anymore, its price has risen up. So understanding that supply and demand, it allows, like you said, it allowed an opportunity to be created. So it's simple. It's recognizing and knowing your craft.
That's amazing. There was a quote that you mentioned that was related to sex. I wanted to break
Sorry,
that
Mom.
down.
Yeah.
Because I really
Yeah.
I found it interesting how like you really use that quote and you tied it into real estate
Yeah.
and into your success path.
Well, so I think, there's so much information out there today on real estate and investing. I don't think when I started, when you started, I don't think any of this existed, right? There was a couple books that we had. I was lucky enough to meet a guy who was doing it, but it wasn't like this widespread known, hey, this is how to get in, this is how to buy it. There was no Grant Cardones, like that stuff wasn't in your face as much as it is now. So I think now there's so much information. It's almost information overload on what's bigger pockets. I know guys like my buddy Jimmy, he has another podcast. It's great at helping people out. So there's so many different areas where like people can get information that people almost forget to just do it. And so the quote, the joke I had made with you about sex was, you can read about it, you can see it, you can watch it, you can study it, you can do whatever you want, but until you try it, will you know if you like it or not, or what's good for you, or what?
How do you define that quote?
How do I define it?
Yeah, what was that quote?
So buying property is a lot like having sex. You could research it, you could do whatever you want to study it, but until you try it, will you fully understand?
Woo. That quote.
Sorry,
when he broke that quote down to me, I was like, yo, that quote's fire.
Yeah.
Because like you really don't know if you like something till like you test it out.
That's it.
And like just breaking it down like that, like that's a fire quote to me. I actually wrote that down in my iPad. I just kept it there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the journeys that I'm going through myself, right, I'm always constantly trying to do something. I'm always trying to get a feel for it, see if it works.
Yeah.
Does this feel right? And if it feels right, can I continue with it?
Of course.
And I think that's the way most people should navigate anyways life, right?
Absolutely.
Is to constantly always try and see if it's something that works.
I think that circles back to like the theme of you can't be afraid to fail, right?
You cannot.
And that's the real estate, and real estate investing is, we talked a little bit about it on some projects. Like it's great. It can change your life financially, but like you got to be ready to risk it all. You got to be able to deal with the stress. Walking into this interview, I just called you, one of the new constructions, the doors got kicked in and vandalized last night. So it's like you just got to be ready for all these different areas of your life to be flipped upside down. But you keep your eye on the process and the goal of where you're going, and stay steady. You'll end up making it there.
Now that a lot of times in this game of investment in real estate, it could be really stressful, and a lot of times it could be daunting. There's money that's easily
going.
How do you take that on a day-by-day basis and constantly just trying to stay ahead?
Right. So I think that's where the importance of knowing the difference between and appreciating what you have in life versus what your goals are, right? And so I think everyone starts off like, I want to make money, and it's true, right? You always want to make money until you do, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, what can I do with this, right? So it now becomes, what's more important? Do you want a family? Do you want to experience things? Do you want to travel? So I think money is like the ultimate gateway to like being able to see that like money's not the most important thing, right? Like I joke with people, if I lost it all, I'd probably wake up tomorrow and start again, just because I love doing this, right? So with a heck of a lot more information. So I think that's the important part, is just realizing that like money isn't everything. I think it starts off that way in this business, but it goes back to that question of why. Why do you want money, right? So what's important to you? People talk about financial freedom. Great. What are you going to do with that freedom? So it's kind of the breakdown of it. It's kind of the breakdown of it on the finance side, I think.
I think for the most part, right? When I feel like when I'm in a space of trying to accomplish on something, and I always try to see what that looks like for me at the end, right? Why am I like you said, it goes back to why, and I always try to ask myself, especially when I'm down,
right?
And a lot's hitting you at once, because real estate investment, most people look at what we're doing as glamour, right? But they really don't understand like the shit that we really do in real estate,
day in, day out, right?
Day in and day out, is straight up stress,
right?
And like for us individuals like you're always looking at, all right, at your why.
Right.
I'm always looking at my why.
Right.
And there's other investors that's always looking at their why. So like things that we do in this game
Yeah.
is not always glamorous.
Right.
There's a lot of stress. And I remember my boy Terrell,
Yeah.
Mr. D Pockets, and he made it clear. He was like, yo, that money, people see that money's always in. That money's
And-
never always in the bank. That
Right.
money's always
Gone.
gone.
Yeah.
It's always working for us.
Yeah.
You know, so like, yeah, we might talk about we have this network,
Right.
you know, but that money's not there. It's always playing.
Yeah.
And they always say like, yo, you don't ever want to keep your money in the bank. Your money should always be working for you regardless.
So my mom had my mom works for a company in Newport, and it was founded by these two immigrants from World War II.
Mhm.
Right, they were under Nazi occupation. They escaped with their lives. Like, crazy story.
Yeah.
And so the older the mom of the CEO worked there, and so when I was little, my mom would take me to work during summer because we didn't go to daycare or anything. So one day I found myself like wandering into this CEO's mom's office, basically, right? And so just talking with her, she just had such interesting perspectives. But one of her famous quotes was always like about money. She's like, "They're just pieces of paper. It's all digital. You have stock, you have this." She's like, "None of it matters." She's like, I've got a husband and kids I love. That's what makes me rich." So I think the idea of like putting into perspective what truly matters, right, is very important because it keeps you driven on a daily basis. We talked about going to the gym. It's like, if you want to get in shape and work out, like, you can't do it once and get a six pack. Like,
Facts.
you just have to be consistent, go every day. You're going to wake up days you don't want to go. You're going to be tired, you're going to be hungover, cold, whatever the case might be. You might not even realize it. You probably earned that six pack just by going about the process every single day. So, I think that's part of it, is just making sure that like there's a journey, and that journey is as important as the destination is.
Whew. Scott, as you're going through these, as you're going moving forward, for those that's out there who's looking to tap into it, into the game of investing in real estate or getting into real estate, whatever that journey looks like for them, what are some challenges should they be expecting?
So I think number one is, whatever something costs, it costs 2 times that. So get ready to part ways with money. Get ready to spend it. Get ready to risk it. There is one, I joke with people. I think I told you the story. I save, I hoard like my credit card points now, right? And I remember telling people, like, whenever someone's like, "Oh, I have like 150,000 Chase points," they're like, "Why? Why don't you use them?" I'm like, man, there was one Christmas I had no money. I had like literally everything was maxed out, and I remember buying Christmas gifts using my Chase points, and like that was how I got through Christmas. Like, it's hard. It's hard, and so it's great on the other side when you come back out and you're able to cash a check and things like that. But like, you just got to be ready to endure it. And so I think that that's the most important part, is just be ready, to weather the storm, and just know that there's usually a better output on the other side of that storm. So that would be one. And then two would be, I go back to it. It's kind of a theme of my lifetime, is like, don't be afraid to fail. I have a quote that I always live by. It's fear kills more dreams than failure. And I think that that's, very true. That's a very true statement.
One of the things that I realized that I'm learning now as I sit down with all my guests on this platform is the importance of not fearing failure.
Yeah. Big time.
Like, and everybody, and I'm realizing this pattern is that that is actually going most likely to be the key to success.
For sure.
Because if you're tapping into the game of real estate or into the game of investment, entrepreneurship, whatever that looks like for you, I think for the most part, not having that fear to fail is a big factor in where your success is heading.
Absolutely.
So it's just amazing just hearing you like share your journey in regards to this, how you grew up, the failures, the challenges that you've gone through, and all that stuff. Scott, if people want to get a hold of you and they want to get to know you on a deeper level, and want some knowledge from you, how should they actually get a hold of you?
Easiest way. I mean, social media is such an easy way right now. Message me on Instagram. My phone number, which as you heard, my phone's going nuts right now.
He's
Yeah.
busy. His phone goes off.
So I don't hide from anybody. I'm available at all times, whether I know you or not. And that's back to the Texas barbecue references. Like, I love paying it forward because one day I hope someone will do it back to me, and I hope that people will do it for others. I think that makes this whole space we're in a better place. So, phone number, Instagram, email, contact me by any way possible.
Now, Scott, how does Scott Aceto define success in his own ways?
What a question, huh? How does Scott Aceto define success? I think the pursuit of happiness is one of the most important things that we've been given. We live in an awesome country. This country has a lot of flaws, but it has a lot of great things. I think our ability to decide and go after whatever our dreams may be is such an important thing for us. So, I told you a little bit about my story. My grandfather came here from Italy with a couple bucks in his pocket, a wife and a pregnant kid, didn't speak the language, worked 3 jobs to get ahead, moved around, had a bigger family. It grew and it grew and it grew. So, for me, like, we're already a success. We're already a success. I got, a family that supports me, that I'm happy with. I got relationships that are doing well. I have a girlfriend that's going excellent. So it's like my life as a whole is great. Now, if I can wake up and love what I do every single day, what more can I really ask for? So I think that just success is someone who knows what will make them happy, who knows what they want, and works towards it every single day. And if you're doing that, what else can come your way,
Blessings on top of blessings, man. It seems like you really take pride in your family. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. You guys know what it is. It's your boy Sadiq. Once again, you guys know how to get a hold of me if you guys want sit back and chit chat a little bit. But you guys should definitely follow the Netwrk podcast. So if you guys are on Instagram, please follow at the Netwrk, which is THENETWRK.co. And if you're on YouTube, please follow the YouTube page as well, because there's so much value that a lot of these individuals are providing. Until next time, please, I'll catch you guys. Let's go.